she knew perfectly well on October the 31st that there was no black hole. She knew that. And yet on November the 5th, when she went out to talk about the state of the nation's finances, she was talking and saying she may have to bust the manifesto pledges and promises and raise income tax, when she knew she didn't have to. But she did it so she could raise more money for a benefit splurge. But I sort of get why Starmer's not sacking her, because she's the buffer for him. She's the buffer. She takes all the flack for the fiscal failures and everything. And if you remove her, he then gets the flack and then he'll have to go. But that's going to happen anyway. He must see that now by lashing himself to her this week and saying she did not mislead the public. He's now implicated himself.
So do you think then just generally that Meghan she's not trying to win the public over, it's all about money?
Oh, I think it's all about money. Oh, I think she wants to win the public over because she understands that makes money.
It's Wednesday and we're back with your shot of the Daily Expresso. I'm Steph Spyro and today I'm joined by the one and only Carole Malone.
Hello. You're way prettier than JJ, let me tell you that.
Well, can I say, Carole, speaking of the man,
yes.
in his absence...
Oh, he's sent an insult, has he?
That's
just so typical, that. You should not be channeling for him, Steph. Okay. He says, I'm sure you're missing me, so here's a little note to get through. Whatever outfit you are wearing, I'm sure it looks awful. How nice. And I hope today, for a change, you have water in your glass instead of 60 proof vodka. He's vile.
Well, with that...
And let me also say that he gave me a bug last week and I've just had a terrible 4 days thanks to him. So I hope he's still got it. So anyway.
Maybe a good thing he's not here then. We'll move swiftly along. We're 1 week on from Rachel Reeves' Benefit Street budgets. And my goodness, a week is a long time in politics lately. The fallout from the last 7 days has been nothing short of unprecedented. The Office for Budget Responsibility, that's the government's spending watchdog, has ignited a fierce dispute over whether the Chancellor exaggerated the scale of Britain's economic trouble. They think Reeves and her team repeatedly exaggerated a multi-billion-pound hole in the public finances before the budget, which the Chancellor used to justify her £30 billion tax raid as a crucial repair job. Carole, how do you see this ending?
Well, it has to end with her being fired and Starmer being fired, and because Starmer has now lashed himself to Rachel Reeves' lie by saying he was proud of a budget that actually misled the public, and he was and the fact that he was saying he was standing by her it's outrageous. You know, I feel very sorry for Richard Hughes and the Office for Budget Responsibility. Yes, they leaked, their fiscal report before Rachel Reeves had announced it, but that was by a few hours. It wasn't even 2 hours. I think it was 2 hours in the end. But it didn't alter what had actually happened. And that leak was accidental. The leaks that Reeves has been doing in the weeks leading up to the budget were purposeful and willful and caused economic damage. Now, the OBR is saying exactly that today. It is saying that it warned them about the leaking from the Treasury, and they did nothing. It kept on going. And the OBR, and it's a guy called Professor, what's he called? He's called Professor David Miles. He is saying today that is what caused the damage, the leaks from the Treasury, not their leak. And, you know, you mentioned Richard Hughes there. I really hope he spills the beans on the lot of them, because, I mean, he's done the decent thing and resigned, people could say he was forced out, but he's done the decent thing and gone. But he hope he does a round with TV and with newspapers and tells them the lot, because Rachel Reeves is trying to dump him in it. She's tarnished his reputation. She's tarnished that of the OBR. And let's not forget, she worshipped at the feet of the OBR until very recently. She worshipped at its feet when it was having a go at Liz Truss and when it was criticising the Tories, but not when they're critical of her. And let's face it, they weren't critical. They actually, in the beginning, they just told the truth. And Richard Hughes has been sacked for telling the truth. The Office for Budget Responsibility has been disgraced and criticised for telling it like it is. And it worries me about this government that this socialist government that actually it tells people what it thinks they should hear. It tells people what it thinks is best for them. And And I think Rachel Reeves is a pathological liar. I think she's at the point where she doesn't even realise that she's doing it. I think I'm being serious. I think it's a massive problem for her. We know the lies that she's told in the past. We know that she lied on her CV. We know that she pretended to be a big shot in the Bank of England. She was a minnow. She pretended she was a big shot in the Halifax Royal Bank of Scotland. She was actually the customer relations boss. We know she lied about the fact that this tenancy agreement she had to get for her house. That's her responsibility. It's not the responsibility of anybody else. Why did we think she would stop lying when she got to be Chancellor? The woman is programmed for it. And to watch the interviews, that round of interviews that she did at the weekend, where she was saying she did not mislead the public. I mean, does she and Starmer think we're stupid? We have literally heard her mislead the public since the day she got into office, talking about the black hole, which she said was £20 billion when she came to office. And since then, apparently it's gone from anywhere between 20 and 40 billion, to listen to her. She knew perfectly well on October the 31st that there was no black hole. She knew that. And yet on November the 5th, when she went out to talk about the state of the nation's finances, she was talking and saying she may have to bust the manifesto pledges and promises and raise income tax, when she knew she didn't have to. But she did it so she could raise more money for a benefit splurge.
And, you're echoing Kemi Badenoch's words at PMQs. She said that if Reeves was a CEO, she'd be fired, and Reeves might even have been prosecuted for market abuse.
I still think that, what she did was immoral. It was dishonest, and it may even be unlawful. When you hold the high office of Chancellor, it is the second most powerful job in government, and when you willfully lie to a nation about the state of its finances, I think it is potentially an offence, a criminal offence, and I hope she is going to be investigated.
And I think the Financial Conduct Authority or the opposition parties have asked that the FCA does look into it.
I hope so, and because you can't hold. How can we now believe anything she ever says again? How can we believe anything any Chancellor says again if the rules can be broken so easily?
And actually on that, in your column that you've written for Express Online, I thought it was really good that you mentioned then Chancellor George Osborne, and in 2010 he created the OBR for the very reason of holding the government to account.
And so, but I don't even think the OBR held it to account in that sense. I think all it did was state facts. It was telling the truth. It was saying there was no black hole. In fact, it said not only is there not a black hole, there's 4.2 billion pounds headroom, which we should have all. I mean, it's not a lot, I get it, but it's enough to not to have to impose the kind of taxes that she's just imposed on the British people. 26 billion quid's worth of taxes on people that before this time last year, she imposed another 40 billion. So the 66 quid's worth of taxes on a nation where she didn't need to do that. And all at the behest of her backbenchers, who would like to see the benefits bill go up to 200 billion, not 100 billion. So I think, I don't understand why she's still in the job. I sort of do, Steph, because
many people would agree with you.
But I sort of get why Starmer's not sacking her, because she's the buffer for him. She's the buffer. She takes all the flack for the fiscal failures and everything. And if you remove her, he then gets the flack, and then he'll have to go. But that's going to happen anyway. He must see that now by lashing himself to her this week and saying she did not mislead the public. He's now implicated himself in those lies, and I don't see how he can get out of it.
And I thought today it was quite cowardly that Reeves left her deputy James Murray in the Commons to answer the Tories' urgent question instead of coming out. If you have a budget that you claim you're proud of, to come out and defend every decision you've made.
It's what she is a coward. She actually cancelled an interview on Sunday with a lady called Camilla Tominey, who has a show on television, mainly because she knew Camilla would rip her to shreds. I mean, she had quite a hard ride with Laura Kuenssberg on the BBC, but not hard enough, I thought. But she knew Camilla Tominey would rip her to shreds because no one, when Kuenssberg said to her, you have misled the public, you have told us, she said, I don't accept that. Well, you can't just say I don't accept that, because we have tape of her talking about the black hole for the last 6 months and her increasing it with every month that passed. So It's not a question of her not accepting it. It is out there in the public domain. But Starmer, if you notice how many times both her and Starmer, when they're confronted with one of their lies, they will say, I don't accept that. I mean, how easy is that?
And I think the public doesn't have much appetite for recurring excuses either.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think, I came into this building today and about 4 people said to me, keep going at Labour. Everyone everywhere cannot believe what they're getting away with. And it's a kind of corruption, to lie. It's a bit George Orwell-y, where you tell the people something and that has to be the case. I mean, this is what happens in totalitarian states where a government says something is true, and if you don't believe it, well, then you're in trouble.
Well, Carole, with Labour still floundering over a budget that has brought criticism from all sides of the political spectrum, Reform UK's leader, Nigel Farage, is said to be making moves to capitalise on the comedy of errors. Top Reform donors have said that Farage expects a deal or merger between his Reform UK party and the Conservatives before the next general election. One Reform backer said Farage has described such an agreement as inevitable, but that it would take some time because he was wary of making a pact between the two. Farage and the Tories, of course, deny this. Do you think it's inevitable?
I think it has to happen. I think if you want to get rid of Labour, I remember they have a majority of, 170-something seats. If you have a party with that big a majority, yes, they're going to lose them. But I think what's really important is if Reform and the Tories are still headbutting each other and at odds, you're going to split the right vote. And you can't do it. What they have to do is a deal so that going into an election, they have to leave the red wall to Reform and don't stand against them in those areas, and vice versa. Reform have to leave the areas that the Tory could win to them. And then once Labour are gone, that's when they have to form some kind of pact. I don't see how it can work otherwise. I don't think Reform are going to get enough seats. They'll get a lot of seats, but I don't know if they'll get enough. And there's no point in splitting the vote. But the problem we have is Kemi Badenoch has said she will never do a deal. And there is bad blood between her and Farage. And so I think while she's in power, talk of a deal won't happen. But Farage thinks that she won't be in power.
Interesting.
In power, leading the party.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's interesting because the feeling lately is that Kemi's quite safe.
For now, she did brilliantly at conference. I mean, that speech was, she was on fire at the conference. She was on fire last week with attacking Reeves, and all that stuff about it was not misogyny, all that talk about her, it was woman against woman and bullying and all the rest of it. Nonsense, Rachel Reeves is the Chancellor of the Exchequer. If she can't take the truth, she shouldn't be where she is. But I think, and she did very well at the weekend, Kemi, on the news round of programmes. But I hope it lasts. I kind of hope it lasts. But I think there are people after her job. And Farage is pretty confident that she won't be there. And I think Farage can't currently come out and say he's going to do a deal with the Tories because lots of people in Reform hate the Tories. They think they're a busted party.
So the timing here is really important.
I think it's really important.
And how much before a general election do you kind of get into talks?
I think, I don't know, but I think it has to be, months before the election and where it would be explained why. And I think if you explain to the electorate what you're doing, if you tell them, I'm not going to stand there because I think before, they'll get it. They know it. We all know that's what happens in elections, but maybe the public don't. Yeah. So if you really want Labour out, it has to be explained to the public how to do exactly that. And the way to do that is not for Reform and the Tories to stand against each other in some areas.
And I think there's a lot to be said for that openness, because maybe that's not what we're seeing from the government. So just acknowledging where the country's at and being upfront, people would really, really
Who would imagine that in a socialist government where it's supposed to be for everyone and equality, who would have imagined that this socialist government resembles a totalitarian, authoritarian government? Who would have imagined that would ever happen? I didn't imagine it. I knew that they wouldn't be good, but I didn't imagine it would be this bad. And I don't think anybody. I talk to lifelong Labour voters every day, and you must too, and they're saying never again.
And it's extraordinary because Labour had a stonking majority.
Yes.
And to be in the position that they are in,
yes,
18 months or so after a massive win at the general election is
They're finished for 2 generations. They are never going to get back into power in my lifetime, that's for sure. And that is the fault of idiots like Rachel Reeves and Keir Starmer.
There's a lot to be said for public trust and keeping the public on side.
Exactly.
And now, Carole, on to royal news. It's emerged that the man formerly known as Prince Andrew can stay at his Windsor home until next October. The Crown Estate has revealed that Andrew Mountbatten Windsor served notice on Royal Lodge on October the 30th, with a minimum of 12 months' notice under the terms of his lease. So he can stay there up until next November. During that time, Andrew remains responsible for the ongoing costs of maintenance and repair of the property. How confident are you that he is going to stay put?
I'm very confident he's going to stay put. I think he'll be there. I think he'll be there beyond next October, when he's got 12 months to get out. I don't think he'll go even then.
Despite public anger, pressure on the king.
I don't think he cares. I think he must be thinking by now the public can't be any more angry with me than they already are, and he really doesn't want to. That lodge is all that's left of the life that was for him. That's the kind of life with royal trappings attached to it, even though it's a bit dilapidated apparently. But I keep on hearing it's dilapidated. It doesn't look dilapidated to me, Steph.
Pretty good.
I wouldn't mind living in there myself. But he's not. I don't think he's going to go. I mean, they've already said that he might lose the 500 grand he was going to get for finishing the lease early. He was going to get 500 grand. They're saying they're going to take that money off him to do the repairs. That's fair enough. But I think you'll have a job getting him out. I really do. Because what can the king realistically do to him if he doesn't move?
I mean, there must be a lever the king can pull.
Is that what? Unless you get a forklift truck and actually lift him out of there. I don't see how. You can tell him to go. You can tell him he has to go. You can tell him all his money's going to be cut off. But I just don't see what's going to make him go. And for him, it's not even his home. It's just representative of what he was and which he is no longer. But the interesting thing we should watch is Fergie going to leave? Because I read a story this week saying that Beatrice, her daughter, had a granny annex, and Fergie was going to move into the granny annex. And I find that interesting because we've always thought over the years that these two got on incredibly well and that she'd stuck by him through thick and thin. But even if he'd left Royal Lodge now, she was going somewhere else anyway. She wasn't going to go and stay with him on the Norfolk estate where a house is being prepared for him. So he must be so bad now that she can't.
She's had enough of him too. She's gone.
Can't stand the sight of him anymore.
Do you know what I think would make him squirm potentially is being hauled before the Commons Public Accounts Committee.
Yes.
Which seems like might be on the table.
Yes, that's going to happen now because this has opened. I think Ingrid Seward, the royal commentator, referred to this as the Pandora's box. When the public discovered that Andrew had been paid a peppercorn rent, they started to look at all the other properties that had been paying a peppercorn rent. And hey presto, the one Wills and Kate are moving to, that's called Forest Lodge in Windsor Great Park. That too is a peppercorn rent. So there, and that committee you just mentioned has the powers to summon members of the royal family in front of them to explain.
And I bet that's something the public wants to see.
Well, I think it would almost, it would be like a public lynching, wouldn't it? I think not so much with Kate and Wills. Yeah. Although these MPs now who are calling for this investigation, Labour MPs calling for this investigation into the Crown Estate properties, they hate the royal family and they would do anything to embarrass them. And that's what this is all about. You know, there is an argument that the public could be angry at the way the royals live and the fact that, you know, we are subsidising their lifestyle. But, you know, the monarchy and everything it does and the family brings in billions in revenue to this country every year. The amount has gone overhead, but it's a lot of billions. And you know, they're always going to live. I don't want them living in penury. I just don't think
I don't think people expect that either.
No, but I think they want to see them paying massive amounts of rent and whatever. I don't know what the going rate for a palace is. I'm not entirely sure what you'd pay every month for a palace. But I think there are some who want to see them punished a bit for living such grand, incredible lives. I mean, I don't care about Wills and Kate living in Forest Lodge. I cared about Andrew getting this free. But I don't really mind about the rest of them. But I think there are some members of the public out there who do.
And staying with royal news, it's December the 3rd, so it means it's finally okay to go all in on Christmas stories. One person who has wasted no time getting into the festive spirit is Meghan Markle, with her new Netflix special, With Love, Meghan. According to the streaming giants, the hour-long show sees Meghan share her favourite holiday traditions, seasonal crafts, and family recipes with friends old and new in this festive special. Carole, is there any tips you would like to get from Meghan?
I'm just going to read you some of her tips, Steph, okay? This is some of her... She's talking to us like we're all morons. One of her tips is you have to prep. It's got to be purposeful and pretty. This is what she says. Chop your veggies and your herbs in advance to save time. Now, you would never have thought of that, would you, on your own?
Never.
And it says, and make a nice, rich gravy. Wouldn't have thought of that. Then she says, set the table and the scene. Welcome your guests as they arrive with a drink and some canapes. None of us have ever thought of that, have we? That's new, nothing. And then she's actually saying, if someone wants to bring something to your house when they come for Christmas, let them. But, don't take all the work on yourself. This is just nonsense. She's been paid millions for this. And it really upsets me that someone like Martha Stewart, who is an icon of mine, apart from the fact she went to prison, obviously, for fraud, but apart from that, she set up an empire, $1 billion empire, out of her love for cooking and gardening and making houses pretty. She made it a business. Meghan's not doing that. She's just doing this because Netflix have offered her a show. They've offered her a lot of money to do the show. I don't believe that she is at home this Christmas and that she's making little arty, crafty things, and she's making her own advent calendars and putting presents in for the kids. I don't believe that she's making her own bath salts and collecting her own honey from the garden.
Making her own crackers as well. Love letters for Harry.
It's just tosh. She's not doing it. She's probably got staff for Thanksgiving and staff for Christmas Day. And I don't think anyone is fooled by this, not for a nanosecond, We're looking at the woman who thought it was okay to slate the royal family as racists and to try and bring the monarchy down. I'm not going to listen to what she says about roast potatoes. I'm really not, because I don't believe she lives like that. It's like she wants to create this image of this perfect life, which she doesn't have. No one has the perfect life. So I, for one, am not buying it. And also, I suspect this will be her last Christmas with Netflix, because the second series hasn't even made Netflix's top 10. So it may be that we don't see her next Christmas telling us to make gravy and crackers. Hopefully.
So if Netflix was to come to you and offer you a
I'd
show,
do it in a heartbeat.
And what would your top tips be for our viewers?
Well, it wouldn't be that. I mean, I wouldn't be telling them things they already knew. I would tell them stuff like, don't fight with the relatives, because, when I was a kid, somebody always fell out with somebody. That was the kind of big thing, because you have too much sherry, you have too much, fizzy wine, and you start arguing. I would give tips not to row with the closest members of your family. And my tips would be, buy the host me lots of presents. That's what I would say.
That's good advice. Good place to start. So do you think then just generally that Meghan she's not trying to win the public over, it's all about money?
Oh, I think it's all about money. I think she wants to win the public over because she understands that makes money. And she's looked at people like Martha Stewart and she's thought, oh, hello, and we've got Mrs. Hinch in this country. She's looked at people like them and she said, well, okay, there's millions. And of course, Netflix are throwing money at it, or where they were. But of course, as we know, the contract is up. And the only deal they have with her now is if she's got an idea, they have first look at it, but they don't necessarily have to buy it. So I think if this show doesn't work, this Christmas show, it could definitely be curtains for her next year.
Lots to keep an eye on then in 2020.
She'll have to make her own crackers next year. She'll have no money.
Seems so. Right, everybody, the caffeine's worn off and that's all we've got time for. Thank you to Carole for joining us, and thank you to you for watching at home. That's been another episode of the Daily Expresso. Join me again tomorrow with Esther McVey, the Conservative MP. Bye for now.